body on Kendrick Perkins, fighting for the loose ball.
You're assuming Kendrick Perkins is going to out-jump J.J. Redick.
Okay.
What's up, Rook?
Hey, Perk and I had some battles back in the day in the playoffs, Magic and Celtics.
You know what? This is how we like it here on First Take, some friendly competition. And you know, with these two, we've got some history on our hands. So Kendrick Perkins, J.J. Redick. Perfect timing as we get into some very exciting NBA news because, guys, two champions returning to action this week. This first one we have been waiting literally years for. It has been 2 years now. There's optimism that Warriors guard and splash bro Klay Thompson making his return against the Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday. That, according to sources telling ESPN. A final decision on his return expected to be made once the Warriors return from back-to-back games this week on the road. And over in the East, Kyrie Irving expected to make his season debut tomorrow at Indiana after missing nearly half the season after not being vaccinated. Here's KD.
He loves to play. He loves being out there with his teammates. So can't wait to see him out there. And you know, this is our livelihoods. You know, this is something we dream about every day. So to go through this situation, then to get an opportunity to play right now, I know there's a lot of emotions going through his head, and as teammates, we got to be there to support him.
All right, the Warriors currently first in the West, the Nets second in the East. So, Perk, whose return is more impactful, Klay or Kyrie?
Well, Charlie, no disrespect to Kyrie Irving, but when you look at the Brooklyn Nets, KD and James Harden, they actually could make it to the finals without Kyrie Irving. The Golden State Warriors are not making it out of the Western Conference without a healthy Klay Thompson. So when I look at these two, I'm taking Klay Thompson for the simple fact that I feel like we all forgot who the hell Klay Thompson really is. This guy's a top 75 greatest player of all time. And let me take you down memory lane. See, no disrespect to Jordan Poole, no disrespect to Andrew Wiggins. Those guys are playing phenomenal basketball right now in the regular season. But when it matters the most, Klay Thompson has showed us time and time again that he's capable of being the best player on the floor, like in 2016 in the Western Conference Finals against Oklahoma City in the elimination game on the road, Game 6, where he went for 19 in the fourth quarter when they was down 8 going into the fourth. See, the thing is that Klay Thompson takes so much pressure off of Steph Curry. Like, we look over the last 2 weeks, teams have been keying in on Steph. He's been struggling a little bit. Well, you can't do that when Klay Thompson return. And I think that we don't show this man enough respect on how great of a shooter he is, how great of a player he is, and what he brings to the game of basketball, and especially the Golden State Warriors.
One correction there, Perk. Klay's a top 77 player of all time. He had it on his jersey for weeks, all right? I think if you look at it in the short term, the immediate impact, I think Kyrie is going to have more of an impact for the simple fact that the Nets need bodies. They've relied heavily on James Harden and Kevin Durant to be playmakers, and they really need that third playmaker, and Kyrie will give that to them. He's also healthy. We know he's healthy. He's coming off a season where he averaged 27, 6, and 5 on 50, 40, 90 shooting percentages. There's still some uncertainty about this roster for sure. I still think they need another big wing defender. They're 25th in the NBA in defensive rebounding. Steve Nash talked a bunch about this last night after the game. As far as Klay Thompson, the reason I say it's the immediate impact, we don't know what he's going to look like. Now, hopefully he's healthy and he's normal Klay, but he hasn't played basketball in 2.5 years. There's certainly a rhythm that he has to get before he can return to peak Klay. My big question long term is, can Klay be that elite two-way player he was prior to this injury? If he is, look, I think the Warriors are already the favorites along with the Suns to win the NBA championship. If he is that player, they're the favorites for sure.
Well, JJ, you talk about uncertainty. It's a lot of uncertainty when it comes down to Kyrie Irving. When we talk about being reliable, when we talk about being dependable. See, we already know if Klay is healthy, we know that Klay is going to play. We know that Klay is not going to show up one day and say, you know what, I'm taking off from work. We don't know that about Kyrie Irving. So that's one thing that we have to give a nod to far as Klay Thompson. And now it's just things are different now. So when I know Klay is coming off a torn ACL and a torn Achilles, but when you look at guys like John Wall and Kevin Durant, it speaks volumes about, the doctors that they have now, the technology. And Klay was supposed to return at Christmas, but, he had to get more reps, get his legs back under him. But I will say this to you. The Golden State Warriors, they know themselves. Listening to Steve Kerr, listening to Draymond Green in their post-game interviews saying, hey, man, look, I know these young guys been playing well, but when Klay comes back, he's inserted right into the starting lineup because they know their ultimate goal is to win a championship. It's not impactful short term. It's about the marathon, JJ.
There's no doubt that the Warriors have a better roster fit and a better roster balance than the Nets. In terms of coming back from this injury, you mentioned John Wall. John Wall was not the same player post-injury that he was pre-injury. For every Kevin Durant that we've seen, there's 10 or 12 guys that haven't been who they were pre-injury. And I'm not saying that's the case with Klay. I hope Klay is as good as he was or better. The thing you brought up that I think is the best point you made here, Perk, is availability. And what happens if we get to April and May, and the Nets have a top 1 or top 2 seed in the East, and they're starting out both those first 2 rounds without one of their best players in Kyrie Irving because he can't play home games in New York City. I think that's the biggest question mark about this return. It's not necessarily what's the impact going to be in the regular season. The Nets are going to be fine. They're going to end up with a top seed. It's what's the impact if we get to the playoffs, and he's still unvaccinated, and New York City still has these mandates in place. Okay,
JJ, so let me follow up with, should both teams be at full strength? Who goes the furthest in the postseason?
Right now, the Warriors. I mean, there's no doubt I think the Warriors are the favorites with a healthy Klay Thompson.
Perk, what do you say?
You know what? Here's the thing. When you look at a guy like Kyrie Irving and you look at a guy like Kevin Durant, we have to remember this, and I'm going to go back and repeat this. I still think that Klay is more impactful, but when you have that big 3 in Brooklyn and they're together and Kyrie's mindset is right, which we don't never know. We don't know. It's day to day with him. But if his mind is in the right place, the Brooklyn Nets are just too dangerous offensively. Like, you have too much firepower. But again, I'm not taking anything away from the Golden State Warriors because they have culture. They have a different system. Their offense is hard to guard. They have a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Draymond Green who's anchoring that defense. So if I had to pick one, if they were to battle in the finals, look, I give all the praise to the Nets, but I'm going with the culture, the coaching, and the system in the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting.
You said like 3 different things there, so I'm trying to kind of dissect.
Yeah, I say.
Said. Yeah.
No,
your pick is the Warriors. It takes a while for you to process everything. Is what you're saying?
No. It take a while for you to process everything. I didn't process it. I just gave flowers to one and the other, but I picked when I had to choose.
And so did I. And I said the Warriors. I just did it in a less roundabout way, where you just said that the Nets are more dangerous. And if they're healthy and if Kyrie's right, they're the better team.
Well, it's very interesting because the Warriors actually have a 365 to 113 record when Steph, Klay, and Draymond all play. That is the highest win percentage for any trio in NBA history. So very dominant. Definitely can't count against them. Okay, guys, we are going to bring you back in a bit to talk more NBA, but still to come on First Take, just how far can Joe Cool take the AFC North winning Bengals? Grab your cigars. We're going to talk Cincy's ceiling shortly, and you do not want to miss that. And as discussed earlier, Baker was atrocious last night, and finally, he's admitting he needs shoulder surgery. Did he ruin the Browns' season?